excited to talk to Sannuta because she's one of the most interesting persons in AI and journalism in my point of view, and this is why I'm taking those 30 minutes to really grill you.
Right back at you, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So this is a new format, I think, for me. I don't know. Yeah, let's see how it goes.
Okay, let's jump right into it. Sannuta, just give us a little impression of your newsroom and your role and how you came into your role.
Right. I think just so that we can zoom out a little bit and talk about why it's the two of us doing this together. I come from a small newsroom in India. I'm a journalist, sort of moved into this bridge role between journalism and AI. I was just telling someone this morning that my real day job is producing documentaries on climate change on a weekly basis, and we do that with Deutsche Welle. Shout out to anybody from DW who's here. And Uli is kind of, I'm assuming, the exactly on the other side of the spectrum, large newsroom, public service, and coming from Germany. So I think that sort of sets the stage for us. So what I do at Scoll, Scoll is not small, but a tiny newsroom in India. We're operating in a context of 1.4 billion people. And again, sort of long story short, I used to head video at Scoll at one point. I had a very large team. All of us have gone through sort of the pivots to video all through 2016, 2018, 2019. I had to let go of a large part of my team. Like a lot of newsrooms around the world, it wasn't quite sustainable, and that's when we decided that with the amount of people that we have, are we still able to be relevant in video? Is where we started out our AI journey. If you know a little bit about India, we have about 700 million smartphone users, one of the largest in the world, still at 50% potential, and almost all of them watch more than 1 hour of video every day on their smartphones, and much larger than China in terms of consumption numbers. So being relevant in video was very important to us, and how do we do that with a really tiny team? So that's how we started with AI, journalist, video, and then sort of pushed into AI. What about you?
Well, as you mentioned, I'm part of German public broadcasting. We are one of the largest broadcasters in Europe. We have more than 20,000 journalists in our broadcasting system, and we have a federal system, meaning we have 9 different broadcasters all over Germany. And the challenge is to get experts together from all of those different media houses. More or less, we are 9 different media organizations with 9 CEOs, so you have to get everyone on board. Experts together and everyone on board, that's our challenge we're facing. And I am Chief AI Officer, meaning I'm coming out of data journalism. I've built up several data teams over the last 10 years. And now I'm also responsible for implementing AI into the organization from a journalistic point of view, but also from an administrative management point of view. So that's my role.
How fun has it been? Let's talk about the last 3 years and tell me how fun it's been for you.
Yeah, I mean, it has been quite intense because, I mean, for everyone, AI has been the topic, of course. I have the best job in the world, I would say, because it's just from a business point of view very interesting, and also from a journalistic point of view, because now we are looking at some of the topics journalists haven't been looking at for the last 10 years, I would say. We're looking at data infrastructure, we're looking at the business side of things, we're looking also at investigative reporting, which is our core topic, of course. But now we can have a very holistic approach to look at our organization. And AI, for me, is also an interesting vehicle to get our homework done as media organizations. For example, to get our data infrastructure in line, to have the right people, to have interdisciplinary teams working together. And for me, that is a very interesting vehicle to get things done. So what is your focus right now, Sannuta?
So our focus, very honestly, like I said, because we're a tiny team, how do we use this? I know this is cliche, a lot of us say it, but it's really, really translating into some real output for us, right? So how do you use this thing as a force multiplier? And are we able to sort of expand what we're doing to the audience and the context that we operate in? And how are we able to sort of focus on our core work, which is on ground, in-depth reportage. We don't do volume work, for example, so we're not doing a cut, copy, paste of the wire copies. We're not chasing every story out there, but we're doing a lot of the surround sound, the deep surround sound around a story that comes out of India. So we've just had, a bomb blast that happened yesterday, and our teams are already sort of, how can we contextualize this better? What information is missing? How do we sort of give the whole picture and not just sort of go at it with, this, right?
Okay, let's dive deep into that, because Sannuta, I don't promise too much, is really one of the most interesting product persons right now to talk to. Grab her and a coffee and sit down with her. But now let us dive into your product thinking. So how do you do this expanding knowledge? For example, David Caswell is here, down there, structured journalism. So how do you use these, I would say, knowledge bits to let people dive more into news, and how are you using AI?
So we're really thinking about it, I think, from the point of view of how can we not create content silos, which is the typical go-to for personalization, but how can we instead focus on form of how a particular news piece is delivered, right? And we're also sort of, largely giving the main stage to our editors and the editorial expertise within our newsroom to say, okay, you can decide based on the news that's happening, how you choose what goes out, what our users are feeding in, but we will help the newsroom create sort of, form-based personalization for different kinds of users, right? So what does this dynamic on-demand form mean? So we, for example, if we were to look at the budget in India, right? The budget is this huge festival. We have a lot of stories that come out around that. Are we able to do, instead of a 500-word block of text, a wall of text, what else are we able to do around this, right? Based on this verified information. So we said, why don't we provide calculators? Why don't we provide decision trees? Why don't we provide, whatever else that the newsroom can come up with? And that we've been able to do because of structured data, and because we've been able to test at this moment sentence level meaning making within our archive and sort of contextually retrieve it. And we'll talk more about that at 12:15 in another session. But how do we do that? How have we achieved that? And I think, yeah.
And can you give us an impression how that looks like for the users?
How does it look like for the users? Currently, they're able to, so on the article page, they're able to select the form that they would want to choose. But this is, again, it's still, we're in the process of iterating what the design for the user, for the final user could look like. But ideally, when we have enough user insights, we should be able to provide that particular news in the form that they are used to, or provide sort of clickable buttons to say, would you like to consume this as a mind map? Would you like to consume this as a calculator, and things like that? But let's talk about me. What are you working on?
Well, it also relates to data, the USP we have as media houses is trusted content, and this is why we're working on the idea of a trusted content pool. And it's a little bit like you said, we are just doing our homework right now, which means we are vectorizing all of our data. We are using it for information bits and for semantic search within the newsroom. but also we want to use our data to partner up with other media organizations. Because right now, the relationship with AI platforms has to be reassessed for us completely as media houses. This is, I guess, the biggest discussion we're having right now as media organizations, right? Because search is changing, the old deal traffic versus content is kind of off the table right now. And we have to see what our USP is as media houses. And in my point of view, our USP has always been trusted content. And how can we translate trusted content to the AI-mediated media environment right now? And we have just done an experiment where we combined our content pool with 2 other content pools of Köppen. Köppen is a private media house in Germany, plus with München.de, which is a provider of service information around the city of Munich. And we've done a chatbot on the Oktoberfest. You know, I'm part of Bavarian Broadcasting, and for Bavarian Broadcasting, Oktoberfest is a big thing. We have 2 weeks, everyone going crazy. And this is also an event where people talk a lot about it. So we figured people might also want to talk to a chatbot on our news site. So we used our content and combined it with the content of 2 other media outlets, Merkur and TZ, which belong to Köppen, and the service information provider Munich.de. And our gut feeling was that the kind of answers, the quality of answers might change if we combine different content pools. And this really has happened, because when we fed the chatbot only with our content, we couldn't answer some of the questions. Although we have a lot of reporting. We have a lot of cultural reporting about the Oktoberfest. We have reporters on the ground. But you know, we're a public service broadcaster, and we don't do certain kinds of reporting. We don't do service context so much. But the private media houses do that, and the other partner we partnered with also do that. So with those content pools combined, we could first say, okay, guys out there, we know the kind of information that feeds that chatbot, so we can guarantee the information is good that is feeding the chatbot. It's trusted content. Plus, we could answer service questions that naturally come along with the Oktoberfest, like how do I get there? How much do I pay for XYZ? So this was just a field experiment. We did that for 3 weeks, and we had some user traffic on there. And now we are looking at the user traffic. We're also interested in, for example, how do users use this kind of chatbot in our products. But the real interest for me was, if you combine different content pools, does it really get better? And do you have a business case in there for different media houses? And you do. And this is the step we want to use to go further down the road, because this might be a complementary offer to all the people out there using ChatGPT. I don't know, if we can do a news offer with this kind of content, and if we can say, guys, the information that is beyond this offer is really trusted, then we still have the hallucination problem with LLMs. This doesn't vanish, to be honest. So this is still a problem, of course. The information still has to be checked, but the information being fed into this kind of machine is true. And this is what we can do as media houses, and I think this might be a very interesting point for collaboration also between the media industry, because everyone talks about collaboration, yeah, but I don't see as much, to be honest.
Yeah, I think what stood out for me there is, we're a small newsroom, sort of, and we've been nimble about it. But how different has it been at your end, for example? Do you have a small team that works organization-wide building products, or do you have a large team, a very large team that works on multiple products at the same time? How does it work for a large organization like you?
We started off with a small team and a very nimble team. It's our AI lab. We founded it already 6 years ago, and this is a team that really works, let's say, before the wave. So we try to be very fast. And for the whole organization, as we are really a big organization, we have founded an internal network. And we have made a very good experience with that because we try to get experts together within clusters. And those clusters tackle different problems. So we have one cluster, for example, for product development, one cluster for archives, one cluster for management and administration. So the project work really happens in those clusters. And then we have a steering unity. We are responsible for the steering unity, and we're doing the strategy. So where are we heading? We are doing the ethics around it. We're doing the guidelines. And this is how we work internally. And how do you do that in a smaller organization?
I think in a very similar way, again, what is important, I think, as a takeaway here is before the wave, the phrase that you used, because right now, as of yesterday, engineers at our end are already sort of on top of Toon. I don't know if you've already heard of Toon and the data format that is apparently more nimble than JSON and can be used to is much more cheaper when it comes to LLM-based processing, right? So finding these, these things to stay ahead of the wave is, I think, you just have to do it, right? And there are no real, prescriptive tips of, what to go looking for or whom to follow or, I think the previous panel also mentioned curiosity as one of the, and I think that, bringing back to, I think both of our teams, curiosity for what is this ahead of the wave and what does it look like, I think that is definitely the solution.
And how cautious are you? Because people usually sit on panels and say, okay, we're doing slowly, we're only beta testing, we are very, very cautious, but you seem to go around that differently, right?
We're cautiously optimistic, let's say that. Because, so my work over the last about 18 months has been adding as much caution to this as possible. So we've created a directory of liquid content, which is again very, very deterministic about when journalism moves from one form to the other, what does fidelity look like within those forms, right? And that requires sort of engineering caution at the very start and at every step. The other bit of my work is looking at how journalistic data can be structured as well as retroactively structured so that you're able to capture the journalistic nuances that we as journalists add very intuitively. Now, things like, words like likely, allegedly, reportedly, these get stripped away when content moves from one form to the other. And this is sort of tried and tested and is documented quite heavily right now. Things like temporality. So for us, it's very intuitive to say this thing happened on Monday, or last week the governor said this, or whatever else, right? And these, when you put these, when an LLM sort of ingests them, scripts them, and uses them as outputs, all of these extras that we consider very essential get scraped away and sort of, they don't appear in the. So a lot of my work has been bringing back these things into, and both of these directories, both of the schema that I developed, the directory are both open source, you can look at it. But a lot of this means that we've incorporated this within the features and the products that we're building within Scroll. So caution is sort of at the height of it.
Okay.
What about you? How are you dealing with how are you dealing with some of these very sticky problems of guardrails and again you're working with form to form as well?
Well, the question on the panel before was, I guess, the question from the audience. Do we really have journalists reading guidelines? No.
Yeah, I agree.
We don't. But you need those guidelines nevertheless because you have to have some ground truth, right? So So those guidelines are important, but you need to have formats where people can ask questions, where you can talk about those guidelines, because the very practical questions people have are different from day to day. So what we do is we invented some formats where people just can come to with their questions and also their products, where we have legal people and AI experts answering their questions one-to-one. And we are also putting all the guidelines into one of our internal LLMs, so people can also use a chatbot to ask questions. But I guess that's not enough. You still need people you can just talk to. And we also have an AI board, and it's an interdisciplinary group. We're meeting every week, and you can also address this board. So if you have an edge case you want to discuss, then you can address the board. And you can also come to one of those workshops that happen every few weeks, and you can talk to a community of practice. And like that, we slowly try to raise the AI literacy within the newsroom. I guess that's the best thing you can do. And the guidelines, no one will read it.
Yeah, should we open it up? Does anyone have questions? Okay.
Hi, sorry. I head innovation and new initiatives at an Indian fact checker. Sannuta knows me. My name is Venkatesh. My question is, what failures have you had? Because we're talking about Newsroom as a lab. So what failures have you had, and have those failures taught you anything?
All the time, I would say. Like, we're failing forward. Well, as we're a big organization, you never reach everyone, and you will have everyday people calling you and say, okay, what rubbish did you decide here and there, because it doesn't fit to my day-to-day life, it doesn't fit to newsroom life. And these are the most useful conversations we have, because it makes us adapt the strategy and also the guidelines, no one reads, to the newsroom day-to-day life. And the thing is, everyone says that people should just take some time to learn within newsrooms. But the truth is, people are really busy in a newsroom. So they're doing already their best. They are really trying to learn. But if you have 10 hours to work, then you have family life. When exactly should you do that? So the answer is, the newsrooms should pay for the people to really sit down and learn. And this is so simple. It's about money. It's about resources. It's about giving people freedom to learn. And this is what they tell us, that they really are eager to learn, but they don't have the time to learn. And then they don't have the time to implement it within their workflows, because AI is nice, but usually the workflows are broken. And you have to look at the workflows first. And what my dream would be is to have an internal task force for each department, like for the administration, for the newsrooms, for the strategy departments, that are looking at the workflows and really inventing new workflows. And then we can talk about AI, because AI is just at the top. It's just nothing. I know you all know that, but it's what people tell us back, like, okay, we have a nice AI assistant right now, but I still need to copy-paste the music I used in my documentary in an Excel sheet, and then I have to mail it back to 3 different people. Like, okay, AI is nice, but usually workflows are the problem. But what about you?
Yeah, I think so over-optimization has been a huge sort of failure for us, because both the engineer that works on our products and we are a little over-enthusiastic about everything. So sometimes what happens is, you build a lot of these things with a lot of enthusiasm. So one of the examples was when everybody, this was back in 2022, when everybody was sort of experimenting with headline optimization and headline suggestions. And so we took so we have about 500,000 articles at Scroll. We're an 11-year-old company. So we took all the headlines that we had ever written, put it onto a model and said, find patterns for us. And there were obvious patterns. And then we took it to our editorial team and we said, look at this fabulous thing we've built. You're able to look for patterns, and we don't really have to really think about headlines anymore and all of that. And our editors hated it. And why they hated it is because they said, there's no real opportunity for anything new. Now, the patterns did show us that, we of course start, our headlines always have a question. We start with a why or a how, but still leaving that room for, a little bit of newness is something they wanted, and they didn't want to be prompted with these headlines, which then completely eliminates that. So that was one over-optimization. The other really interesting thing we did when we were building our text-to-video tool was we spent, I think, 3 months on, and again, the technology was fairly new at the time, but we've spent about 3 months on getting the wave to lip right, because the body was static, but just the mouth would move, right? And our engineers sort of really put all their heart and soul into how do you get the mouth to move properly according to the word. And especially when you talk about Indian languages, these are, they get elevated, these problems. And then, we put it out, we did all that, we over-optimized, we put it out in front of our viewers on Instagram, and they hated it. They said, what is this rubbish? Like, why is Scroll doing something like this? And why do we, why do you need a, AI avatar to, tell us the news? Just do it like you always have. So I think over-optimization is a huge failure, I would say. And I'm not, cautiously optimistic is what I would suggest that one is.
We have to be quicker because we have 1 minute left and so many questions.
Hello.
I love the way you're using tools, by the way. Some of the engineers in my team are contributing to us. The question I have is, what is your ask to the LLM providers, for example? If there's one thing they could do better and differently to make your lives easier, at the moment you're putting band-aids on the problem space to have, right? So what is the ask? The one thing you'd ask for them to solve?
That's very easy. Keeping their older models alive, because it makes so much work to change the models.
Yeah, just talk to us, have a real open discussion, and not just with your small partnership teams, but really, because we're a huge sort of part of the knowledge ecosystem, right? I say this a lot, that we are the one source which is sort of verified information that is grounded in people, places, and events, right? You're providing that as a service to the information ecosystem. And we need to be having a deeper conversation.
Okay, I guess we have to break, but I guess there's a lot of coffees we can have today.
Thanks very much.
Thank you all.